welcome back to the Gray Space. I'm Zeke. That is Dre.
Yes, sir.
And we got another good one for you guys this week.
Yes. Make sure you subscribe to become part of the tribe. Do us right. Hit that like and comment if you are rocking with the content. Now, we got a special guest in the building.
That we do.
And, this is by way of the people. The people were like, look, man, we like your interviews, man. We like everything you do, but this particular one, we need him back.
Right.
So we made some phone calls, chased him down through flights, through the mountains. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had to come down. He had to come down to come
down
see
to
us.
the
You know what I'm
desert.
saying?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Because he's a busy man. He's out here doing a lot. But we're so glad to have him back in the Gray Space. We've got Mr. Aram Chavez back in the building. What's going on, Aram?
Man, I got to have you guys intro to me for everything. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. No,
welcome, man.
This is great. No.
Yeah. So, first of all, how's everything been? How you been?
Great. Things are going great. You know, it's as everybody knows, or if you didn't listen to the last podcast, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a financier, and I'm a teacher. And so all three of those things are hitting, and then the family is, sometimes no news is good news there, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
everything is good. Everything is good.
So you just took a vacation. Where'd you go? If you don't mind me asking.
Went to well, it's been a busy summer. We went to Europe.
Nice.
Did France, did Austria, a little Germany, and then came back, and then back to Barcelona and in Mallorca, and then a little bit of California.
Okay.
And so it's been a good summer.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah. Got there before everybody started to. Now everybody's starting to head back out there.
Right.
But, yeah, it's been good. It's been great.
Awesome. Well, let's just get into the meat, man, because, obviously these times, it's actually kind of funny because when we talked last time, we talked a lot about the 2008 recession. And fast forward to now, it's been, I want to say, about a year.
Yeah.
And fast forward to now and things that have transpired, not only within the last year, but within the last 6 months. How crazy, how deja vu-ish it's gotten out here with inflation and just the financial times for everybody right now. And that's why I think it's great that you're on at this time, that you came back through, because people have questions. People have questions, right? The regular Joe Schmoes of the world who aren't well versed in some of this stuff, they have questions. People are trying to figure out, where can I get my next dollar? How can I, investments is a big conversation now, more than it was a year ago. You know what I mean? More people are talking about investing and doing all these kind of things. So let's talk about, first of all, what's your opinion on everything that's going on right now?
So, well, we're in a crisis on top of a crisis on top of a crisis, right? I mean, we've got gas prices, food prices, everything's going up, right? Inflation, labor shortages, supply chain issues globally. I mean, there are things that you can't get. Still, cars are hard to buy, stuff like. So we're on a crisis on top of a crisis, and I'm glad that we're talking today because, we're not going to let a good crisis go to waste, right? And so we're going to talk about money today.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about smart money specifically, and this is something that I think. And just to give a background, a little bit about me. So I grew up in a single parent household. No easy way to put it. Dad skipped out on us when I was 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
Mother running 3 jobs, and it wasn't easy. Right. It wasn't easy. And so, not growing up with any money, you don't really learn about how money works. Right. And so. I want to set the table with that, and now I want to talk a little bit. Now, how did I get into understanding what real money is? I like to say from humble roots, but the reality, it was poor. We were poor, right? And I have a buddy of mine, and he'll be on this podcast sometime soon, Troy Swope, and we have powdered milk stories.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And in fact, he was telling me that he was he was embellishing a little bit with one of his kids, and he said, "Oh, I grew up on powdered water," and one of his kids said, "What do you put in that, Dad?" You know,
Right.
So,
What are the ingredients?
What are the ingredients of powdered water?
Right.
But no. So I was lucky that I had mentors, and for those of you who I don't like people to I don't want people to think that they're self-made men and women, right? Everybody's got to have somebody that believes in them. That's it. You don't just climb this mountain by yourself, right? Or else you'll be using a spoon to move a mountain. If you got people that believe in you, now you got shovels, right? So the reality of it is, I started really basic, just working on my education in terms of finance. So that meant just subscribing to things like the Wall Street Journal way back in the day,
Right.
And then I progressed into finance and investment banking, and I got to tell you, you don't need to be a finance major, you don't need to be a business major. There are a lot of common sense things, and I want to, and that's how we're going to jump in today. Is I want to talk about how we think about money, and then how wealthy people think about money. So I'm talking about. I'm not talking about your average millionaire. I'm talking about people that have, and this it's sometimes hard for me to even fathom, but there are a lot of people out there that have hundreds of millions or billions, right? And how do they think, and what's the difference? And so the way I want to jump into this is, growing up, my mother, she was a saver. She was a saver, which meant that the air conditioning went on twice a day in the summer. And for those 3 minutes, it was heaven.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Standing right under the fan.
Right, it was just heaven, right? And that was a treat. But she'd always say, mijo, if you don't have cash to pay for it, then don't buy it, right? Don't use a credit card. Don't if you don't have cash. And so that's the whole Benjamin Franklin. A penny saved is a penny
earned,
right? Penny saved is a penny earned, and there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that, right? And so I don't want to discount that, because that's half of the equation. But as I started, in my teens, I'm watching, and I'm aging myself, and your audience most of your audience probably isn't going to know who the hell I'm talking about. But there were shows like Dallas.
Okay.
And Falcon Crest, and all of these shows where you saw all these wealthy people, and I was like, what is it that these? How do I get there?
Right.
How do I get to that pool? How do I get to and so I started reading a bit more, and I noticed that because they were all reading the Wall Street Journal, they'd always have the Wall Street Journal on a desk or table.
Or something, right?
Yeah. So that's how I it was by accident. I was like, I got to get whatever that wall thing is, right? And so then we hear the old adage, and you've heard this many times: it takes money to make money, right? So my mom was saying, mijo, you know what, you don't spend unless you can pay cash for it, and that's one half of the equation. But I started thinking, I don't think I'm going to get wealthy that way. I mean, you got to make a lot of money, right?
Right.
to so the other half is, it takes money to make money. I started to think, well, what does that mean? And it's somewhat the opposite of, a penny saved is a penny earned, and this is leverage, right? So I want you to think about money as leverage, right? Not just something to buy shit with, right? It's leverage, and so you've got a certain amount. It could be a very small amount, but that can be leveraged to buy something else, right? And so what I want you to think about, and this is part of the entrepreneurship mindset, right, is one person's expense is another person's income, right? So you can buy, but now if you use too much, then that's what my mom was afraid of, right? If you use too much leverage, then guess what? Your credit cards, you got more to pay.
I'm just taking notes over here.
Oh, yeah, you got more to pay than what you got coming in, right? And that's what my mother was afraid of,
right?
But that extreme by itself isn't going to make you wealthy, and then this extreme over here, there's a high probability you could just completely go bankrupt, right? So you have to have a balance. So the first thing about money that I want you to realize is that you have to employ a penny saved as a penny earned, so that way you've got a little something that you can leverage to then do something with.
Right.
And that could be, in Arizona, there's a lot of people that use that in the housing market, real estate, right? And so you got to be careful, because in 2008, and we talked about this in the last one, from 2008 to as soon as the leverage shut off, not everybody had when the music stopped, not everybody had a chair to sit in. Right? So you've got to think about how much you're using. You got to be careful with it, and you got to listen to that old saying, a penny saved is a penny earned. But that's how you create more wealth. Right? So you have to be able to leverage. And the other thing is, so that's the first concept. And now we're going to, I want to take a little deeper dive into smart money and how smart money thinks. So we've always been taught high risk, high reward. Right? If you're going to make money, and we think the people, and this is a fallacy. We think that the people that are driving Bentleys, the people that have 4 or 5 houses, the people that have a lot, that they did, and they got lucky, and they rolled the dice, high risk, high return, and man, now they're good.
Yeah,
that's not the way it works. It's not. But for us, that's what we've been told.
Right.
So if you're going to make money, you're gonna put all the chips on the table, and you just hope. No, but that's not smart money. That's what. And that's Vegas type money, right? That's Vegas type money, right? So the way smart money thinks is, and I know this is going to sound, and both are somewhat correct. So it's not either or, right? It's low risk, high return. That's how smart money thinks,
right?
Smart money thinks low risk, high return. Now I'm not trying to advise people on stocks here or whatever, but you think of companies like, let's say Apple. Apple has more money than any company on the planet, right? So they've de-risked investors in the sense that they just have tons of cash. So there's low risk, right, relatively speaking. And then they can invest that money into a lot of different things and give a high return. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the way chief financial officers think, the way chief investment officers think, smart money at the very highest levels is not high risk, high return. They're not going to Vegas to try to make more money on top of their money. They are looking for low risk, high return. Okay? And that's where we need to start separating ourselves from everybody else, is instead of thinking high risk, high return, and that's the only way we're going to make things. I mean, how many of us have thought, I'm just taking all of my nest egg, I'm going to Vegas, I'm putting it all in black, right? And wouldn't it be great? And I want it. And then then I'm like, okay,
I'm good.
Now I'm good. Now I got some breathing room. I remember thinking that way a long time. But that's the way a lot of people teach finance, though.
I was going to say, a lot of times, some of the things that I've been seeing recently is that people are telling people that are kind of getting into investing is that it's not gambling. It's investing.
Yes, right.
Right? And so if you go into investing with a gambling mindset, normally you're going to come out losing because it's the same thing with gambling, right? So, go ahead.
And so to that point, no, this is a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. So So to that point, I have read, I think just about, there are a lot of financial books out there, right? And from Warren Buffett, George Soros, Peter Lynch, I mean, they all write these books. And I remember in my 20s, which was 20 some years ago, I remember in my 20s, I read every single one of those books, everything I could get my hands, and I still couldn't sleep at night. And they don't give you the secret sauce. Mm-hmm. They don't tell you. They tell you all the things, all this stuff, and you're like, oh, that makes sense, and this makes sense. And they tell you, okay, this is what I look at when I'm looking at financial statements or balance sheets, and it gets confusing. Sometimes it's really specific, but is it just that?
Right.
Well, I'm going to tell you that over the years, there are a couple things that smart money has in common.
Okay. Is there a secret sauce?
There are. Okay. Yes, there are.
Right.
And I'm going to give you a couple of them. Okay. Number one, always invest into people.
Okay.
You always invest into people.
I remember you saying that last time.
And that's so always invest in people, because everybody's model works. We talked about it last. Everybody's model works. I've never had anybody come to me and say, hey, Chavez, I need $5 million, but my model doesn't quite work. Mm-hmm. Nobody's ever going to say that to you, mm-hmm. right? So all models work, right? Your model may be similar to this model, but can you execute to it, right? So don't get caught up in people telling you, hey, we're doing just what just what Apple is doing, or Tesla or whoever. Okay, but can you execute that model? You and your team, right? And so that's number one is now that's if you're building a company or if you're investing into, say, a startup.
Okay.
Right? Now on the investing side, this is what I have thought long and hard about this, and I'm going to tell you I'm not wrong. George Soros and Warren Buffett have different investment sectors, different ways that they invest. Okay. Right? So George Soros he synthesizes markets, and he picks, and he's doing currencies and shorting stock. He's doing all this hedge fund activity, right? Mm-hmm. And then Buffett, he does what we call value investing. He'll buy companies and then he'll harvest that cash flow and then take that money and buy more companies. And so, but the one thing they have in common, and this is the other thing that we can take as investors in the stock market, if we'll just start there, is the reason why they outperform the markets every year is because they invest in perpetuity. So what that means is, when you invest in perpetuity, that means if let's say you like a stock, mm-hmm. and you start buying that stock, and then the market comes down, and it comes down with it. Do you know what Buffett and Soros do? They're prepared to double down. And then it comes down again. They're prepared to triple down.
Okay.
It comes down again. They're prepared to quadruple down. And so they're investing longer term.
Right.
Not for trades, right? And here's the thing, trading, and I want to make sure everybody understands this, because there's a lot of the audience, because we have a lot of the same audience, I think. Yeah. I'm teaching at ASU, and same demographic probably, right? Mm-hmm. But, they say trading is a young person's game. And it is, because trading, and when I was in the financial markets, in the investment banking world, I did some trading for my firm, and within a month I was burned out. Why? It's because trading is reactive.
Okay. As
opposed to what Buffett and Soros are doing, they're not reactive. They are proactive. They're saying, this is my opportunity set. This is what I'm going to be investing into. And if things go down, I'm reinvesting.
Okay.
I'm not panicking. And things go down again, I'm reinvesting again. Things go down, I know what I know. And then they outperform the markets, not because they're trading or they're selling at the peak and buying at the trough. They're all over the place.
Right.
They're not. They're, we always think of, I got to sell at the top and we got to, buy at the bottom, and
right.
The buy low, sell mentality. That's great if you can do it once or twice in your life.
Okay.
If you're lucky, right? But we don't need to be lucky. We need to follow some basic principles, and that secret sauce, what Warren Buffett and what George Soros do, is they are prepared when they make an investment. And so for your audience, you make an investment into a stock. It comes down. If the fundamentals are there, if the company is there, that you believe the cash is there, why not buy more, right? And if they're buying more of their own stock, that's usually a pretty good sign.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying this is 100%. Again, I'm not trying to give advice on any particular stock. I'm just saying that the mindset with smart money is different than with everybody else. What happens when things go down? Most of the times we pull the parachute, we're out.
Right.
I can't lose anymore.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to the gambling aspect, though. Like, right? Like when you're going and gambling and you keep losing and losing, I'm out. I might as well take whatever left, what I have left, and get the heck out.
And that's reactive. That's like trading.
That's trading,
right? That's trading. That's reactive. You've got a certain, and you got these little rules in your head. Okay, I'm going to get out when this is with the house. In Vegas always has more money than you, right?
Right.
So it's just with gambling, it's just a matter of time before they take yours.
Right.
So you may be up. Let's just say hypothetically, you may be up $10 million and think you're doing great. If you keep gambling, the house has $1 billion. They're going to keep putting money out.
Yep.
And you're going to keep putting, and then they'll take that. They'll have that $10 million.
Oh, easy.
Right. So that, and it's more reactive, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so we have to be smarter than that. We have to think about how do the wealthiest people in the world think, and it's contrary to what a lot of us have been taught. The other point that I wanted to make is we've all been taught, and you've heard this from financial advisors, and you've heard this from people and maybe teachers and whatnot. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Right now, this is not wrong. Okay, I don't want to make your audience feel like this is wrong, but I want to talk about how smart money thinks. So don't put all your eggs in one basket is just a phrase for diversification, right? Well, you got to diversify, so that way if if shit hits the fan, well, you're not losing everything, right? You've got some bonds, you've got some stocks, and well. That's not wrong, but there's an and plus. Okay. So it's not either or. The way smart money thinks is, and just follow me on this.
Okay.
Diversification is a minimization of profits. So smart money. So there's a flip side of these coins, right? So that's what we need to be thinking about. Wait a minute. So the first thing I said was, when it came to money, was about the diversification. Well, this would be the second thing. The diversification makes sense, but think of the wealthiest people on the planet. Were they diversified, or did they have all of their eggs in one basket? So the first thing I said is low risk, high return. Right. Low risk, high return. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, I mean, the list goes on and on. Facebook, Zuckerberg, they have de-risked, again, their companies, and they have large chunks. They have all their eggs in one basket.
Right.
So does that mean, and so here's the thing, does having all your eggs in one basket mean that you're playing too loose?
Right.
No. And it's a hard concept, but does having all your eggs in one basket mean that you're in a riskier position than if you were diversified? No.
Okay.
No, it doesn't. You can have both. So it's not and or. I just want you to know that when smart money starts, when they start looking at investments, they don't look at, I'm going to put, $5 million, $10 million into this. When they find a low risk, high return, they go into a concentrated position. They go. They're in.
It's a commitment.
They're in.
Yeah.
They're in, and then they're in for the long haul.
Right.
You see how these three tenets work together?
Yeah.
So you got the low risk, high return.
Right.
You've got the concentrated position. Okay. And you've got the long haul, which is somewhat contrarian to what we've all been taught.
Right.
We've been taught high risk, high return. Diversification is how you got to roll.
Right.
And if things go down, you got to pull. Like you're in Vegas, you got to pull it.
Yep.
That's not how smart money thinks.
Right.
That's not how smart money is. Now, again, I want to make sure that the audience knows that those are not wrong. Those three are not wrong concepts. But there are other concepts to think about.
So let me ask you something. So let's just say, somebody who doesn't have a ton of money, right, but wants to invest. Let's just say $1,000 or something.
Right.
Like I want to get started somehow, right?
Yep.
And I have $1,000 in my savings. It's not doing anything, and my savings sounds like growing. It's not.
Sure.
It's just sitting there. So say it was me. Like, would it be better just to take that $1,000 and invest it in one particular company that I truly like? I go all in on that company. Basically, it's all on black, basically, in a sense, right?
In a sense.
Okay, I'm just going to go for the long haul on this.
That's it. But here's the thing. You have to be prepared to keep investing. So it's not just, I hope this $1,000 makes me $10 million.
Right.
It's this $1,000, and this is where the discipline and this is where the Soroses and Buffetts also differ from everybody else, is that when they put money in, they put it in tranches, meaning that they put it in, okay, I'm buying again. I'm buying again. But they know in their head, I'm going to be putting X amount in, but my first is going to be $1,000. We'll just use that. My first investment into this company is going to be $1,000. My second is going to be maybe $25 a month. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So and it doesn't matter where the stock is.
You're constantly. You've made the commitment.
You've made that commitment.
Okay.
And you keep on keeping on. As an example, Warren Buffett, I think, bought 49%, and I could be wrong on the company and maybe even the percentage, but I recall reading somewhere that he bought 49% of Geico like in 1965 or something.
Okay.
Something a long time ago, right? For like $9 million. And then he ended up paying for the rest. He ended up spending a few billion.
Right.
For the other 50%.
Okay.
But he was trying to buy more and more and more. So that was a concentrated position, right? And it was for a long time.
Right.
And so the secret sauce, you're not going to read it in the books. The secret sauce is really about, okay, I've got my nest egg, and here's the thing: you can't touch it to then go,
invest somewhere else,
buy a car or something.
Okay,
or this is it. You're going to keep on, and most people say, okay, I'm going to put it in, and let's just say you have a really good year. Let's say it goes up 30%. So now you've got $1,300.
Right.
So that's great, but imagine if you would have been putting, after a year, let's say you would have been just putting in $25 a month every month.
Right.
It's not 13 anymore. It's going to be closer to 15,
right.
16.
Right.
Right? And then so after 10 years, let's look at this from a long term. So Warren Buffett's 90 some. And you would think, well, I mean, maybe his timeline's got to start getting a little shorter, right? I mean, but he's already a multi-billionaire, right?
Right.
He knows he's not going to live another 30 years, right? I mean, to 120. I mean, I don't want to try to predict when people pass him. It's not what I mean to say, but he's gonna. The point is, he's going to invest the same way that he did always has, which is those three tenets. Yeah.
Can I ask you about because you said investing in people, and I agree with that. But how do you know, like a particular company, like that I want to invest in that company if I don't know the person? Do you know what I'm saying?
This is where you've got to start following, and you got to look. You can look at for better or for worse. You can look at people like Elon Musk. For better or for worse, back in the day, it was Steve Jobs. And they've all had their hiccups, and Elon Musk has had quite a few hiccups the last couple of years. Some sloppiness. And I don't want to take away from his, from his innovation and some of his brilliance, or a lot of his brilliance. Period, But he's been a little sloppy, right? And Jobs was too. Jobs, at the age of 29, Steve Jobs was crowned, the king of computers, king of technology. At 30, he was fired from Apple.
Right.
So, do they? And he was, still a billionaire, right? But so did he make some mistakes? Yes, I don't want to say. But then when he got back into Apple, things started to take off, right? And not to digress here, but Steve Wozniak he needed Steve Wozniak, and Wozniak needed him. So I don't want to make it sound like it was just Jobs, because in the early days it was Wozniak's technology. But
that goes back to your original point. Everybody, you can't do it on your own.
You can't do it on. That's it,
right?
And so you have to have people that believe in you. So, but to your point, you've got to look at the leadership. Right, you've got to look at the leadership, and there's one thing, and I wasn't going to really. This is not part of the discussion, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. I love watching the Marvel movies. I love watching Superman. I mean, I love watching all this stuff. But we've gotten, I think, as a society here in the U.S., we've fallen in love with our superpowers. You're like, what's your superpower? Well, my superpower is probably sleeping. But the reality of it is we don't have superpowers. Okay. We are not super. It's about. I'm going to tell you what I think is better than a superpower. It's being able to make decisions better than everybody else, and that means knowing things about money, like those three things. Right? We don't have superpowers. We want to empower people by saying, you've got a superpower, and no, you don't. I got news for you. You don't, and I may be an anti-motivator here. I don't mean to be that way, but I want to play it real. The way you make it is you make better decisions, and you got to work.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I'm here, is because talking about entrepreneurship, right? And side hustles, or whatever you want to call it, right? We all need, and this is my belief, and I run this way. We all need 5 or 6 sources of income. It's not one, not 2, 5 or 6. We need to be. Here's the thing: in the U.S., we work a lot. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we were in Europe quite a bit. In Europe, they work to live. Here, we live to work.
Yeah.
So if we're going to do that, then we need to be having multiple. So one could be your day job. Another could be investing into companies, long term, doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, in a concentrated position. And I like that. And I know there's going to be a lot of advisors out there. I work with chief financial officers, CEOs, chief investment officers. I work with a lot of, so I know the mentality, right. And again, the diversification part, it's not wrong, but is there another side? There is, and so, but we need to have more side hustles. We need to have things that because that's going to lead to something else. It's going to lead to something else. You never know, and this may not work. But we if you're going to work 12, 14-hour days, you want some of that to be on your own,
of course,
for your own family, for your own life, for your own for your own retirement, for your own. And I'm going to tell you, I know that a lot of the audience is working 2 or 3 jobs, and I like that. But one of those jobs has got to either be for yourself or with somebody that's going to be, where you have equity, where you've got skin in the game. And that to me could be. And the other part of this is, I don't believe in, and maybe we talked about it in the last podcast, but I don't believe that you can keep a job for 30 years and you get a gold watch at the end of the
right. We did talk about that.
Those days are long gone
for sure.
And so there's no security. And what I love about this country in particular is we hire people on the drop of a dime. Unfortunately, the flip side is we fire people on the drop of a dime.
Very true.
But it keeps us fresh. It keeps us moving. And so that's why I think if you can find something that a side hustle, side gig, whatever it may be, 2 or 3 of them, spend some time with it every day.
I got a quick question. I don't mean to interrupt you, but staying on that topic, how would you go about finding that side hustle, right? Because I think I think the average American, middle income, low income, always looking for a way to make more money doing something on the side, right?
Yeah.
And not everybody has a certain skill, maybe in certain fields, right? You have people who are electricians who can now do that on the side, plumbers, whatever, right? But how is like the average Joe, Jane, finding that side hustle? How would they go about finding what it is?
So it starts. This is such a great question. This is it starts even before you find it. You've got to find partners.
Okay.
Think of Paul Allen and Bill Gates. Think of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Look at you two. You have to find partners.
Yeah.
You can't just try to dam the torpedoes and go it alone.
Right. Right.
You got. So before you even think about what your side hustles are going to start being, or what your entrepreneurial dream is, you've got to find partners. Okay. And that helps. So it helps in so many different ways. It's not about whether or not you're smart enough or not. It's about it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 3. Right? So Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, it was more bandwidth. They had more. They were doing different things. They were complementing each other.
Yeah.
In their case, it was a front wheel, back wheel scenario.
We talked about that. I love that.
And so before you even think about what it is that I'm going to be doing to make extra cash, and that extra cash is going to go into, not to your lifestyle, by the way. I want to make sure, because what happens a lot of times is you start making this extra cash, and you're like, oh, now I can afford this watch or whatever. No. You put that into that long-term, double down, concentrated position, and you keep putting it in there, right? And then that's how your nest, and then that's a form of leverage, right? And so, but nonetheless, you've got to start stacking a team of people that you trust. People that work hard, right? And here's the thing: it's not, and it has to be people you trust, because there's a lot of people out there that work hard and that are smart.
Yep.
But maybe don't have the same ethical component.
Yep, that's very true.
And I've been burned. I'm going to be honest with you. I've been burned. I wish I could say that I learned that and I followed it to a T, and I never been burned.
Right.
No. It's happened to me a couple of times.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you have to find people that you trust, that you can run with, you roll with, that you know when shit gets, starts getting high, they're going to run through it with you, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to bleed with you, they're going to cry with you, and that's part of entrepreneurship.
Right.
Right. And again, I'm qualified to speak here only because I've cried in my pillow.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the reality of it. But then you guys can start figuring out. The men and the women can start figuring out. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Okay.
That's how. And it might not. I got. We talk about. Doing something that you love. There's a lot of things that I do in my side hustles that I don't love, but I do them. So not everything. I think we have this other fallacy, which is, the first is, and again, I hate to burst people's bubble. You don't have a superpower.
Right.
You've got you can get partners and you can make really good decisions. Right. That's the first thing. I remember seeing a Chris Rock video or a concert one time on TV, and he was talking about how that, being in Vegas at an ATM, there's nothing good at 3 a.m. That's not a good decision, right? You're not nothing good is going to come out of that,
exactly.
Right? So you got to make good decisions. Got to have the right partners, and you got to have the partners that you trust, and again, that complement the front wheel, back wheel. But here's the thing, life is short, and so you may have multiple partners for different things.
For different things, right?
Yes. Now that leads me to the next important point, which is I want to talk about the word structure.
Okay.
I want to talk about structure a little bit. So every one of your audience members that's got some entrepreneurial endeavor, side hustle, again, whatever we want to call it, needs to have an LLC on the minimum. Everybody needs to have a corporation. There are a lot of advantages to having a corporation. And that structure, that's going to give you more structure. And here's the thing. If you don't, it's kind of like, and I'm not somebody that loves taxes. Right? I don't know anybody that really does, but you only value what you pay for, right? So if you're paying for a license to be incorporated, you're going to take it more seriously. If you're paying for something, you're gonna feel more responsible to it, right? And an LLC, you get your own Social Security number, and you're going to have to file taxes for it too,
right?
And it's now you're like, oh, wait a minute, it's not just me,
yeah,
but it actually will help to. And I'm not a tax avoider. It's tax mitigation, if you will, just trying to minimize your tax liability. You wonder why wealthy people pay less in taxes as a percentage than everybody else. It's because they've got corporations.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up right now.
And so structure is something that we all need to be aware of. And let me tell you something. In Arizona, it's $65 to incorporate your LLC. $65.
That ain't nothing.
That's
Nothing. And it's another $30 if you expedite it so that it doesn't come in 30 days like it comes in the next 24 hours.
Right.
And then you have to once you're incorporated, and that would be Arizona AZCC.gov, right? You got your partner or partners, right? And then you guys figure out which direction you're going. Then you can incorporate. But then you got to go to the IRS.gov and get a tax ID number, just like your Social Security number. And then you go to the bank, and now you've got a bank account, a tax ID, and an LLC. And that LLC, you can add or subtract partners. And that could be investors. They could be partners, like employees that you're like, hey, I can't pay you, but I'm going to give you a piece of equity. I know that game all too well, right? But that's good, because now they've got sweat equity in it. They're going to bleed, cry in their pillow with you, and you guys are going to figure it out together. And so my job, I think, today is to give people a map, right? And that structure is pretty simple. It's not on the investment side. We talked about that map. Just think about the flip side of those coins, right? Instead of diversification, how about concentration?
Yeah.
These are things that
I love that.
Instead of trading like you're in Vegas, it's longer term.
Yeah, almost like a marriage. Like,
yes, it's exactly it.
It's the commitment. It's like, okay, we're in here.
That's it.
So death do us part.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
That's it. That's right.
All things are going bad. We're going to lock ourselves in a room and figure this out. And that's, kind of doubling down on it, right? I'm not heavy into real estate. I never have been, but because I'm more on the financial side with companies talking about like what we're talking about today. But I have a buddy in Vegas, and he's about 70 years old, and he still owns the first property he ever bought in his 20s out there. And he has never, and he's got his own plane. He's, he didn't trade. He didn't trade up. He didn't, maybe he could have made money if he sold at the peak in 2007. Who was to know, though? Right.
I mean, if I really knew, guess what? I'd be talking about something else. I'd be talking about trading or something. But you don't know, and that's why, and neither does Warren Buffett, and neither does George Soros. They're not reactive. The market tanked. What do you think they did? Do you think they sat on their hands and cried like everybody else? And they may have cried. I'm sure they did. But what did they do? They sucked it up, and they said, we're buying more. And we're going to buy more again. And we're going to buy. So from 2008 to 12, they kept buying and buying and buying. And a lot of their peers are gone. They got wiped out. They sold, they took the losses, and they walked home with their tail between their legs. Yeah. And not Soros, not Buffett, and there's a bunch of others too. Those are the most popular, right? Yeah. And they had that fortitude to just keep investing in perpetuity.
Right.
I want to make a comment, and kind of going back just a little bit about finding the right partner. It's an honor to do this with him because this is our side hustle. We have regular jobs, but this is one of our side hustles that we do.
For sure.
And I want to speak to everybody out there as well that how important it is because he'll say something to me and I'll be like, wait, what? And then I'll think about it, right? We don't need answers right away, but he might we need to change this. What do you think about it? And I'm like, all right, I'll let you know. And a little bit. Maybe I have an answer right then and there. But most of the time I don't. Most of the time I'm like, I have never thought about it that way. And vice versa. And it goes back to the front wheel, back wheel, right? And we're constantly changing spots, right? And I'll do the same thing to him. This isn't working. We need to go down a different path. And then also on the structure side of it, having structure and building upon that structure is, so important. And then I think that's so tied into your partner, as well, because that also gives you structure. You're almost reliable or relying on, the other partner and vice versa. Yeah. It's this, for lack of a better term, like this give and take, that's going on, back and forth. Between your partner, and who you trust. Because to be quite honest, there are times where we're like, man, this isn't working. What are we doing? And we're both, in a sense, crying about it, right? And
you figure it out,
damn it,
right?
And sometimes it takes a couple weeks to get out of that.
Yes.
And something always comes about, right? And something always happens. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
When you start seeing the actual workings of it, right? And you're like, that's weird, that's crazy. But then something will stumble block you again.
Yeah.
Always.
And there's
the
always
curve.
Something.
That's the growth curve.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In academics, they always show this beautiful parabolic line, right? Growth. it's like this. It's a step. Sometimes it's a step, and then sometimes it's a step backwards.
Yeah.
There's no, but eventually you'll get here. But it's not this beautiful trajectory.
Right.
It is. Right.
It's back. Sometimes you're like, wait a minute, I think I'm further back than when I started, and that's okay because you got to. But that's the beauty of a partnership.
Yeah.
And when you find that partner, you'll find that you'll end up doing more things.
Yeah.
With them, and then you'll bring on other partners, but you'll confer with it and be like, "Is she? What do you think of her?"
Yes.
What do you
all
think?
the time.
All the time. Yes.
And let's test it out.
Yeah.
Let's test it out. And that's the way you start off with your side hustle. In my opinion, is you find the right person, and then you start moving forward on whatever endeavor that you want to do.
So I do have a question, and that is it a good time in 2022 summer, as we're recording this, a good time to actually start a business?
It's when there are times of crisis, it's the best time.
I keep hearing that.
The best time because while most people are sitting on their hands, wondering and complaining about gas prices and politics, whatever it is,
Right.
There's people that are saying, "No, we're going forward.
Yeah.
We're not. We could sit there like everybody else and cry about it,
Right.
Or we can do something about it." And here's the beautiful thing: when the economy does come back, and it will, then you're already positioned.
You're already
and
ready.
then everybody that was crying is now, now I'm getting.
They're
it.
trying
Right.
to jump in,
But you've already got a brand. You're established. You're positioned. You've got sales. You've taken risk during the toughest of times.
Right.
So
Now you know.
yes, and that should give you confidence to be able to. And this goes back to Buffett and Soros too. They've taken the risks in the toughest of times, right? And now they don't always win. Warren Buffett sold his airline stocks at the lowest price ever, right? And lost a boatload of money. He didn't follow, in my opinion, some of his tenets that I follow, right? He panicked maybe a little bit, maybe he made a conscious decision, but but the point is he's human. Right. It's not, but in the end, you got to find the partner. You've got to de-risk yourself by continuing to invest in whether it be equipment. Again, one person's expenses or another person's income.
Yep.
Right. And that's where you guys, the audience, I'm saying, needs to find what is it that people are going to spend money on. Here's something that might be shocking. The biggest, most expensive brands in the world, Chanel, Dior, Louis Vuitton. Guess what Rolex. Guess what they've been doing the last 2 years? You would think with the economy and everything contracting, they've got lines out the door.
I've heard this. I heard that.
You could go to Scottsdale Fashion Square. There's at the Louis Vuitton. There's going to be a line out that door on today.
Yeah.
And so that brings me to something else. When you find what your entrepreneurial endeavor, what your hustle is going to be, I want to make sure that your audience knows that there's a couple of really key points to selling. And one is going to be your pricing, and the other is going to be the quality of whatever you do.
Right.
Now I call it guilty and delighted.
Okay.
I want whatever you're going to do, whatever that side hustle is going to be. I want you to charge more, and I want you to give. And because what happens when you go to the iPhone store and you buy a new iPhone,
right?
You're overpaying.
Oh yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
But guess what? you're so delighted. And you feel so guilty. But you want more of it. And what is Louis Vuitton? Louis Vuitton, you know you're overpaying for that handbag, but don't you feel so delighted with it when you got it, right? Or that wallet, or whatever it may be. You feel guilty, and that's what people want. They want people, and so everybody spends up on something. Some people spend up on technology. Some people spend up on fashion. Some people spend up on haircuts. I don't have that problem, but you know what I mean. And so everybody will spend up on something, and so what I don't want your audience to think is, well, in order for me to compete, I have to sell my product or service. Most likely it'll be a service cheaper than the brand name out there, than the legacy competitor out there. And that's what they want you to do, because they know you don't have their efficiencies. You don't have their distribution. You don't have their money. You don't have their bandwidth. You don't have their brand name. You don't have anything, and yet you're going to charge less. So your margins are like this.
Yeah. You're not making any money.
No. And so when you go, and that's why so many entrepreneurs go out of business, is because they're not charging more. And their idea is, and they've been taught this, we've all been ingrained, just like we talked about at the beginning of the show, we've all been ingrained to believe that in order for you to compete, you've got to give higher quality at a lower price so you can take more market share.
Right.
And that couldn't be further from the truth. You've got to give higher quality at a higher price. Again, guilty and delighted.
It's almost like a double entendre, right?
Yeah,
yes, that's right.
Because you feel guilty maybe charging some of these prices.
Yeah.
When they buy it,
Yes.
you feel delighted too.
Here's I have a buddy of mine. He's a professor, and he left academia and started his own company, and he was consulting, and he was consulting for big pharmas. And he called me up one day and he said, "Hey, I don't know where my pricing should be, and I feel really odd about charging a lot, and I want to give them the best value, and I want them to come back, and I want them to keep using me." And I said, you need to be at a premium price point.
Yeah,
premium price. You need to be high. You need to be the Ferrari. Right, you need to be the Louis Vuitton. That's your pricing.
right.
And so he called me up a month later, and he said, "I didn't follow your advice. I went low. I wanted to make sure I got the gig. I wanted to make sure that they came back to me." And he said they called him up and said, "Look, your pricing is really low. Are you sure you know what you're doing?" And a hard lesson. He should. And here's the other thing with pricing, and the audience needs to know this. Pricing only goes one way, down. So if you're already low,
right,
and that's why I'm not a big fan of freemium models. That's why I'm not a big fan of discounts, because you're training your customer to get more from you for less.
right.
You need, and there's that old saying, less is more. Well, I've lived that less is more life. There's also the flip side. More is more.
Yeah.
Right? How about that?
Yeah.
So more is more. So I want your audience to know that when they're charging for something, don't feel guilty. You shouldn't feel guilty about charging a premium. That's what you're worth. That's what your service is worth. That's what your quality is worth. And it could be maybe it's I've got another buddy who has a trucking company, and he charges more. He guarantees that your shipment will be on time, and it's these big semi trucks, and he delivers construction material. And a lot of people, he said, scoffed at him years ago. scoffed at them. They're like, we're not paying that. How much does it cost to have your entire crew on a construction site standing there without material, right? And he guaranteed, and so people pay more. They okay, we got it. We'll pay more, so that way we know it is going to be here on time because I can't have my crew. So whatever that gap may be, you need to make sure that you're adjusting for it in a premium price. You know, you think about Louis Vuitton or Chanel. Louis Vuitton doesn't sell handbags. Louis Vuitton sells Louis Vuitton.
Yes.
Right? You know,
right.
And that's it.
Chanel, same thing.
Chanel sells Chanel. For sure.
You're not buying the bag, you're buying the C's that are on there.
You know, and here's the one thing that bothers, and I'm in academia and I wrestle with some of the economists and when I'm on campus. But econ, right? So economics is in my opinion, it's a soft science. It's not a hard science.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of great stuff, but I want the audience to know that as an entrepreneur, as whatever your side hustle is going to be, I want you to think about, and we talked about this last time, disequilibrium. Or maybe we didn't. Disequilibrium. Instead of equilibrium. So in academics and what everybody knows, you know, when you think of econ, it's supply and demand, right? And when they talk about supply and demand, they're talking about the intersection of supply and demand. You know, you don't want to make any more ice cream cones than what you can sell.
Right.
And when you get to that perfect demand supply and that price, then you are in your equilibrium and your business is perfect.
We did talk about this, I remember, yeah.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, we want disequilibrium. We want more demand than supply.
Than we can supply.
That way we can charge more. And not everybody's our customer. That's the other thing. I want the audience to know that not everybody is your customer. You know, when you're charging a premium, you know, so everybody wants a Ferrari. Can everybody have a Ferrari? No. Right? So that's the difference. And so Ferrari charges a lot more. And you know, and if you're into Ferraris or watches or whatever it may be, that's the perfect example of, I want to say, disequilibrium. Much more demand than there is supply. And we're seeing that even now today, and it's by accident with inflation. There's not as much supply for, say, gasoline. Because of, you know, Russia invading Ukraine. But there is the same amount of demand. So prices are going up. Right? Oil is going up. And so, but that's by accident. I mean, that's just economic forces happening. You know, something. I want this to be intentful. I want this to be purposeful. You need to be pricing more. You need that guilty and delighted. You want your customers to always feel guilty and delighted. When I was in high school, I had a car detailing, and I would go to the wealthy people's houses, and they gave me their garage code. I would get in there, pull their cars out, wash it. By the time they woke up, 8, 9 in the morning, their car was clean, and I charged them more because, number one, I'm going. Number two, you know, it was, I needed the money too, but I did a great job, the quality, right? I knew I was doing a great job, and they were willing to pay more, right? They didn't have to drive to the car wash. I was there, and were they willing to pay more for it? Not everybody in those neighborhoods were my customer, but there were enough. And that's part of making money. So I think maybe, you know, as I think about this show, maybe this is about making money today, right?
For sure.
Understanding money, making money, some basic tenets. And the other thing is, and I didn't want to poo-poo, you know, everybody and saying, hey, you might not love what you do, but you'll have more fun when you start bringing more money in, right? And you'll have more fun with your partner. And yes, are there going to be times when this is true, when you almost get into fist fight with your partner? Yeah, but you leave united, always, right? You may have disagreements, and that's where I think it's important that the audience just know that you have to be open to things. You have to be open to new ideas. You have to be open to criticism, and you have to think the other way. You have to think, well, okay, be the devil's advocate of your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And don't stop when a hurdle comes your way. Get over it.
Oh, yeah.
Run through it.
Yeah. You know, again, my buddy Troy Swope, and I don't remember where he said he took it from, but the other, what is the saying? The other side of, what did he say here? What did he say here? All things great are on the other side of hard. All things great are on the other side of hard. You know, and
that is so true.
And and
that is true.
Let me tell you, you know, Footprint is in Phoenix. It's become, and it will become a household name nationally and globally, but it's become somewhat of a household name here in the Valley, right?
For sure.
For sure.
I think everybody kind of knows now. Oh, it's the Footprint Center. You know,
Yeah.
it's
They don't
the
even call
Footprint
it the Suns Arena. They say
It's
the Footprint Center. Yep.
Everybody calls it the Footprint Center. I think
Yep.
Everybody I know does.
And you know what's great about that is it's the first time, I think, really that a local company that's going to impact the world is, you know, sponsoring something as big as that.
Yeah.
Right. And this is maybe my last point because I'm taking up all the oxygen here in the room.
No, you're good. That's what we got you here for.
But you know, when you think about what problem you're solving for, you know, what the pain or the gap in the market is. Again, it could be like my buddy was just time. He's like, I'm going to be there on time. It was a simple concept. He wasn't doing anything other than just making sure he's there on time. I want to make sure that the audience knows that when you're hiring people, and we should do another segment on maybe hiring and firing, you know, because that's really, there are too many people that are in positions that don't hire right and they don't fire right. That's
very true.
I teach it in my courses just because I don't want students to walk out and think that they've got this business degree, but then they don't know how to hire people and they don't know how to fire people. And we've all been under people that smile up and kick down, right? Or just don't play by the same rules. They're all in it for themselves, you know. And they're hiring people that are. We've all been there, but the point is, you hire people for the cause, not the problem. Okay, you hire people for the cause, not the problem. There may be a problem that you're solving, but this younger generation wants impact.
Yes.
They want to be doing something where their voice is heard.
Very true.
So instead of just hiring people for the problem, to fix the problem, you hire people for the cause. And then you'll get more out of them. You'll get more productivity. They'll be happier. You'll get more retention. They'll stay longer. And that's part of hiring, I think, in this day and age, is you got to hire people for not the problem, but for the cause.
I think, too, just because I hire people for what I do, it's not always about the experience either.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so I'm agreeing with you in the sense of I'll train you how to run this or do the paperwork this way. I don't care what you did in your past job when you did that. That doesn't, because more times, often than not, it's the attitude that comes across, right?
Yeah.
And like, how are you going to fit in my team? Because I have to run a team,
Right.
of people to get all these tasks done. And if you can have all the knowledge in the world, but you're not going to fit in, and you're going to I can just tell you're going to disrupt everything, you know. And so many times I've gotten into arguments with my upper management, being like, "Oh, they had all the experience." I go, "I don't want that person."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Why?" They had all the experience. I said, "I'd rather have Jimmy, who has none."
Right. That's right.
I said, because I could train him to do all that
That's
stuff.
it.
But he has the attitude and the work ethic.
Attitude is everything.
You know, and the work ethic that's
Goes
going to
back
go
to investing in
way
people,
more.
right?
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's going to
Investing
go
into people, that's
way
it.
more further
Yes.
than, and because I know this guy. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I know
Yeah.
run across enough of these people that They're going to probably cause more havoc. Oh, we did it this way, this over here. We did it. I don't care how you did it over there.
Right.
Go back to where you came from. Then
this is how we do it here.
This is here.
Yes.
This is totally different. So
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And again, it's investing into people. Investing
for
into
sure,
people.
it's always investing into people.
Did we cover everything?
Well, yes. I wore this shirt today.
I wanted to ask you.
I've been
sitting here the whole time like,
I love
we gotta hear.
So there's a young entrepreneur. His name is Eli, and he has started a cigar company called Buzz Monkey Cigars.
Okay.
And it's a phenomenal product.
Okay, do they have like regular T-shirts? I'm not a huge polo guy.
Yeah,
because I want that
I'll
really
have him reach
big.
out to you. Yes, I'll have him reach out to you.
That is such a cool logo,
Yes.
man. I love that thing.
Thank you. And and so he gave me this shirt, and they're infused with different. So this is what. So I'm at a certain point in my life. I tried to be a cigar guy.
Okay.
For like 6 months, and I thought I had my, and then I was like, it's
a tough thing.
It's tough.
It is.
Yeah.
And so when Eli contacted me, and he told me cigars, I'm like, all right, well, I know cigars, I think, and sure, I'll do one or two a year, and then he started telling me that they're infused with like. Maybe a whiskey.
I was going to say, are they like cognac dipped and stuff like that? Love it.
My.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
And I
Bring
am gonna,
those here.
I am going to tell vanilla.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I mean, they are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And the presentation, they come in a glass tube with a cork. And and he is very much in the disequilibrium. He never has enough supply. And there's
Does he have a
lot
shop?
of demand.
Or is it online?
It's online.
Okay.
It's online. Buzz Monkey. I'll find it for you, the website. But
Buzz Monkey.
But yeah, it's
all right.
It's I'm in the entrepreneurial world, and so I got to rep. I got to rep the
I love
hustlers
that.
out there.
That's great.
Yes.
I love the logo, everything too.
Yeah, he's got a partner, Seth, and a couple of others, and that's important to know. Also, they're yin and yang.
Yeah,
and they are rolling this thing forward, and I want to say they just recently incorporated. They did a beta. They did a test market with the audience and who they thought their audience was.
Okay.
They're not trying to sell it to, 22. Their demographic is people that have money and are willing to spend it.
Yeah.
On that, right?
Fire.
And so I am going to say that now that I have signed up to be a member, so I get cigars.
Nice.
That's how much I like these. But Buzz Monkey. Let me just see the website, and then I'll let. So it's buzz-monkey.com.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
I guess last thing. Are you still doing the gnomes from last night?
Yes.
Okay.
The gnomes, the Nomigos.
Yes.
The Nomigos. Yes. That's a side hustle. People are
Yes.
like, I'm talking high finance. I'm meeting with all these chief investment officers, raising capital, having a lot of fun. And then I've got this gnomes and culture business.
So you and I were kind of texting back and forth because we were seeing if we could get our own gnomes.
Yeah,
and which is fine because you said you were changing the company that you were using. Did that ever go through? Did you actually change over?
Yes,
because they were doing like the more, I wouldn't say realistic, but like the picture. I can't remember how you were explaining it to me, but because you had to send like pictures and stuff. To do more like photorealistic,
So we're moving into the more of a bobblehead that looks like you.
Dope.
So kind of like when you go to a D-backs game, they've got so that's a lot more readily available than people think, and so we're going to start facilitating gnomes that are kind of bobbleheady-ish and stuff
That's
like
cool,
that.
nice.
And so let me tell you something. Of all the things that I do, that one puts the biggest smile on my face.
I bet.
It makes the least amount of money, but it puts the biggest smile. So for the audience, not everything that you do needs to be solving a world crisis.
Right.
Right? Now, it's great if it does. I'm not knocking it. But if it just makes people smile,
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So, so the gnomes, nomigos.com for those of you who want to see what I look like when I'm going to be 75. I got the nombre, the gnome and ombre together, the Mexican gnome, and we got the Jewish gnome, Shalom gnome, and gnome heart, and all these. But it's you gotta. There are certain things that you'll fall into, and you got to test it out.
I want to say too, just because everybody out there, he wasn't lying when he said the people wanted you back. You
Yes.
are probably one of the biggest shows that we've ever done. So I want to thank you for coming
sure.
on from the first time and that now again.
Yeah, flying down from the mountains.
Yeah, because
No, I love it.
I
The
think
lakes of
I've
Minnetonka.
right.
we've gotten the most.
We get so many questions.
Like questions, and people were like, it made me, people were like, it made me think about how to run a business, or not even to run a business, but like how do I invest? Like, because you gave so many great, little nuggets of information that people grab,
sure.
and that's kind of.
Well,
I'm just
you
glad
guys.
we
Thank
spun the
you.
block with you, and you kind of came back and
these kind of things. I'm from the community. I want people to know that you work hard, but you've got to have the right information, right? And if we're always thinking about high risk, high reward, then you're always going to be gambling, and you're always going to wonder why you have no money or why you have any. There's a flip side to everything. Low risk, high return. Low risk, not high risk, high reward.
right.
That happens. High risk, high reward, right? But you look at the Buffett's
winning the lottery, but how many people win the lottery?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And then here's the problem with the lottery. Not that I don't want people to win the lottery, but if you don't know how to make it, it goes like that.
Yep.
Right. So if you haven't actually been clawing, and all of a sudden you've got millions, it's gonna because you don't. And we see this, unfortunately, with a lot of professional athletes. It's not that they have done anything wrong. It's not that they're not intelligent. And then we criticize them like, oh, you blew $150 million. Listen, they didn't grow up knowing. They grew up probably a lot like us. They didn't know how smart money. Yes, they're talented and they, but they were taken advantage of it. And I got news for you. Agents aren't necessarily always your best friend, right?
We were just talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
And so, not to throw everybody in that, all agents in that bucket there, but these are the types of things. That's why I'm talking today, is because your audience is going to come into money, and they need to understand how it thinks. Smart money thinks. So.
Well, I really appreciate you
Yeah,
coming
thank you,
back.
Dan.
This is
And the
amazing.
door's always open. Anytime you want to come on and talk about whatever's going on right now financially or whatever, the door's always open. We would love to have you on again. Thank
I'd love
you.
to talk about just the economy in general, how things are rolling out. And I don't like to focus on the economy as a negative.
Right.
I like to talk about the economy and okay, so if food is more expensive, instead of complaining about it, maybe you should invest into Sprouts or whatever, people still need to eat. Right. So having just a little bit different mentality, right?
Mentality,
that's that. Instead of just seeing the economy and saying, inflation, gasoline's so high, and well, maybe there's something else that you could be doing to put your money in to take advantage of that.
Right.
Maybe we should have been investing in oil companies. I mean, there's and so. Anyways, we can do that later, but thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much. Anyways, you guys stay safe. You guys stay positive out there.
And as always, this is the Gray Space. Peace.